New Year's resolutions are bullshit, or at least that's what a lot of people will tell you. I'm kind of one of those people. Other people will tell you that they really do help them make changes, at least for the first few weeks of the year, right? It's a topic that always comes up this time of year, so we want to answer the question of why they never seem to work, what are the alternatives, and we want to share the top 5 resolutions as well as the top 5 abandoned resolutions. My name's Aaron,
I'm Cass.
and this is Fuck the Plan. So, Cass, tell me, are you a resolutions kind of person?
No, I used to be.
Yeah,
And after I realized that I was never keeping them, I was like, well, what's the point?
right, right. I
I
think that.
remember
Oh,
I
go ahead.
have one shining monument, and I should have dug this up before we started recording, to my New Year's failure, which was a few years back, like very recently, I think 2023. So, 2 years ago now.
Oh,
I made the resolution to start keeping a regular journal.
hmm,
And by regular, I meant at least 3 times a week.
yeah,
Those first few weeks, man,
right on top
beautiful.
of it.
And then I just stopped until May when I went on a road trip by myself and decided to, well, with my dog, but she
Right,
can't write, and decided to keep that log. And then immediately after that vacation ended, there are no more.
right. I
So,
I'm with you on that because I kind of just like I try and journal in the mornings, but it's really just like when it strikes me. Like it's a good way to get things out of my brain if my head is swirling. But yeah, I know what you mean as far as the resolution itself, and like
mhm,
I don't necessarily think that this is a bad time of year. You know what I mean? Like it's not necessarily a bad thing to try and make changes, but the concept of resolutions as we know it is kind of fundamentally wrong the way that we go
right.
about it. We think we're just going to like force ourselves to all of a sudden wake up with this new sense of like drive and motivation and desire to do something that we've actually never once done in our lives, and it's very like incongruent with the way that your brain is operating. We're creatures of routine. Even with ADHD, we hate to admit it, we do thrive in a bit of routine. So to all of a sudden just be like, hey, this is what you're doing now, even for a neurotypical brain, that's just not going to stick with you. You know what I mean?
It's kind of like a fad diet,
Yeah.
where there's proof that fad diets like, Atkins or, all of these things, there's proof that these things do not work long term.
Right.
Remember that show, The Biggest Loser?
Yes. Yes. I hate
So
that show.
as we all know, we've all met or have been that person who is like, when the new year comes around, I'm going to lose weight.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty good one. Um, in The Biggest Loser, everybody in a very short amount of time drops a tremendous amount of weight.
Hmm.
And so many people struggling with their weight are like, oh man, if only I could get on that show.
Right.
And it is a very good thing that you don't.
Right.
Because if you look up what happens to most of the people on that show, especially the ones who make it further along, not only do they gain all that weight back, they gain more. And most of them are actually worse off than they were to begin with.
Right. Right.
Because who can keep up with the militant routine? You're going to have to go back to your job. You're going to have to go back to your family. You're not going to have time to just work out all day long.
Right.
And you're not going to have that gorgeous specimen, Jillian Michaels, yelling at you all day.
Yeah, it's like you're not actually making this a part of your life. You're doing
Right.
something for a short period of time.
And that's
So it's
exactly
like,
what fad diets do.
yeah, exactly. And it's like you need we'll get into this a little bit, but like forcing yourself to just do something that you don't usually do puts your brain completely at odds with like its sense of itself. You know what I mean? It's like this is not what I do every day. Why am I doing this and spending energy doing something that is not part of who I am and what I usually do? And over time, you can build these habits and you can learn to change and do these things, but it's not by just forcing yourself to wake up and do it. Like there's no amount of willpower that's going to make it stick. And I'll share later what the one key is and the sort of number one thing that you need to understand to make a lasting change.
Mhm.
But before we do that, I want to hear about things that people try and resolutions and just kind of start that conversation a little bit about what these things look like. So, Cass, I know you've done some research for me.
Yeah.
I looked up a couple of things too, to be fair. So, I have a little bit of an idea, but we want to do this as a little bit of a quiz and figure out what the top 5 most common New Year's resolutions are. So let me know when you have your list ready. I know you're not texting over there. You're pulling all your details up.
Thank you for that faith in me. Um,
Although you could be.
so
Are you texting me like, this is the answer? Please.
just send in some dank memes. So let me see. According to a 2023 study by Dr. Michelle Rosen,
Oh.
or Rosen, I apologize, Michelle, if I pronounced that wrong, a best-selling author and psychologist who is known as the Change Doctor.
Oh, the change
Rosen's
doctor.
findings suggest that only 6% of people keep their New Year's resolutions.
Jeez.
The
And
survey
go ahead.
focused on 999. I don't know why they didn't go for an even thousand, but whatever.
Somebody was sick that day.
Yeah, maybe. Participants ages 20 through 60.
Okay. So
Of
it's
the
a wide
group,
range.
mhm. Of the group, more than 80% of participants set a resolution. So we're taking 80% of the 999.
Right. And so
Um,
these ones that we're guessing here are the top 5 out of this study. These
correct.
1,000 people. Okay. So let's see.
Number one would be 21% of
21%.
these, 800 odd people from this study. And keep in
Okay.
mind, this was 2023.
All right. So it's post-pandemic.
Mhm.
I'm thinking one of the most common ones, not that well, it's somewhat recent, so I'm not going to go with what I originally was thinking as one of the most common, but I'm going to think like exercise more or lose weight, some sort of like health related. I need to lose weight and exercise more is my guess for the number one.
Not the number one.
Oh, but it's on the list.
So there are three out of the
Oh,
five that kind of have to do with that.
okay, okay. Number one, I would have said if it was 5 years ago, quit smoking because I know that is a huge
That's
one.
that is on there. We have an honorary mention. Technically, this list
Ah,
gives you the
I see.
top six.
Top 6. All right, I'm gonna try and guess a handful, and then if it's
Mhm.
on the list, you let me know, and then we'll try. We'll go through the order because I'm
Yeah.
curious. So we've got. I'm guessing exercise more is on the list.
Yep.
Quitting smoking is number 6, honorable mention, I
Yep.
suppose. Um, one thing that I'm often trying to do is save more money.
That's number one.
Number one,
Yep.
all right, save more money. Yeah, and I guess that makes
21%.
sense. The things being what they are these past few years, economy wise. How did 3 guys in their 40s not have $800 between them? The
Economy's in
economy,
shambles.
it's in shambles. All right, so I got 3. I got 3 out of the 6.
Hmm.
Let's see. I'm thinking eat lose weight because I know we said exercise
Yep.
more. You said there's a few. So we got exercise, we got lose weight, we got quit smoking, save money. We've got spend more time with family.
Yep.
Okay.
That's number five.
Number 5. So
So
there's
you've
one
got
more
one more in the fitness
in
realm,
the fitness
and it
realm.
is the number two.
Number 2. And it's not lose weight or exercise more.
No, you've already got those.
It's is it eat healthier?
Yes.
Okay. Those are all kind of in the same thing. I almost consider them like kind of one, but it's just this is a beautiful sort of meta shining example of the bullshit of New Year's resolutions, okay? You have to do all 3 of those things to do any of those things
Yep.
for the most part. So you're making a resolution to do one part of one thing that's actually a whole system of things that you need to somewhat change your lifestyle for. And I don't necessarily mean you have to completely upheave and move to a different city, change your lifestyle, but I mean you have to change the things that you're doing and prioritizing your time for, right? In order to actually be able to do all of that. So it's kind of funny to me that there's 3 separate things that all need to be done together that are different New Year's resolutions for people.
And it is, for some reason, the funniest one to me is the spend more time with family friends.
Yeah.
Because that means in this study, the majority of people realize, I actually don't want to do that. And, and
And
didn't
they
go
stop
through
because
with
they
it.
fail the resolution. They actually
Yeah.
realize, I'm happy staying at home.
Actually, my family sucks. So I'm just going to take a step back. Like, the
Oh,
rest
that's
of them
funny.
are very, like, coming from within
Yeah.
and making the changes for yourself, which right off the bat is a better mindset to have.
Yeah.
You have to make them for yourself. But the amount of resolutions that do not get kept is such a big thing. And I didn't know this until I started doing the research. There is actually something known as Quitter's Day.
Mm-hmm.
which is the second Friday in January. I guess Fridays are the number one day where people say, fuck it, I'm giving up, which makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, because it is Friday.
Yeah. So I guess Quitter's Day this year is January 10th. So for
Oh, look at
those
that.
of you who make resolutions and who listen to this podcast, see if you guys can outlast Quitter's Day.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that there's like a specific day for it, because one of the things that I very strongly feel is that there's no need to wait. And in fact, waiting until a certain day, I think actually makes it worse. I think it makes you less likely to skip. I mean, less likely to stick with it and more likely
Mhm.
to just skip it, because you're putting it off. And you can just put it off further and further. And you're like, oh, well, I already put it off till Monday. I'll just wait until next week. Like, how many, I want to know the numbers on how many people never even start on their New Year's resolutions,
I
you
mean,
know?
is making it 10 days into the year really starting?
No, not really. But it's like you can do it on a Tuesday. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like when I kind of, it wasn't a resolution, but like Marissa and I decided, a couple years ago before the wedding, like at the beginning of 2023, that we needed our physical and mental health to be our number one priority. And that encompassed, losing weight and exercising more and feeling better. But it wasn't like New Year's Day. It was like some point in February. We were like, all right, well, we're going to get a gym membership and we're going to go together. We'll drag each other there 3 days a week. We'll go, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And it was like, I don't know, the middle of the week. And Marissa says to me, well, when do you want to start? What week do you want to start? And I was like, Tuesday. It's like it's Thursday right now. We're just gonna start this coming Tuesday. Why wait like 2 weeks or 3? Like, what's the point of that? You're just
Mhm.
giving yourself more time to think about not doing it. Like if you just push yourself into it and go. But I also think that it's like, what I started to get at there is part of the point that I'm trying to make, is that just like picking a day and starting is only part of it, but the way that you frame the goal and the way that you think about what you actually want to do needs to be different, because we're not just going to decide to do something and force ourselves through sheer willpower to do something that we've never had the willpower to for the last 33 years. So like,
Right.
what's the difference? You know what I mean?
You need an actual motivation, a
Yeah,
tangible motivation. One of my favorite quotes of all time comes from Avatar: The Last Airbender,
of
which is,
course.
"Time is an illusion, and so are pants." And just because a calendar says, "Hey, today's a reset," it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, you don't have an actual motivation, an actual reason to do this if you don't think about it the right way. It's
Right. And
and
as somebody who, successfully accomplished one of those top goals, I lost a good deal of weight.
mhm,
And because I packed on muscle, I tend to go more by measurements than by weight. Because technically, if we're taking the highest I was to the lowest I was, I would have only lost about 40 pounds, but I lost over 10 inches off of my waist.
right.
So, it went from almost a 40-inch waistline to 27 inches as we are now. And it's it was not something I said, well, it's the new year, so let's do it.
Yeah.
There was a far more emotional catalyst, which was
Yeah.
seeing my mom struggle with her weight, needing gastric bypass, not making the requisite changes, and thinking, well, I don't want to end up like this.
Right. And you saw kind of a life or a lifestyle that you didn't want to do.
Hmm.
So you found your lifestyle. And what's kind of funny to me is that I went about it in a very different way than a lot of people did, because I did lose from my highest weight probably about 60 pounds over like,
Yeah.
probably about a year and a half or so. But I didn't do it with a goal of losing weight. And as a matter of fact, I don't still have a specific target weight. I have a range that I'm comfortable in. You know what I mean? But what I said is, I don't want to lose weight. I want to be healthier. I want to have a lifestyle that is healthier. Because what happens is, we don't actually want the change a lot of times, and that's why people struggle with it. We want the results of the change, but we don't know what goes into getting the results of those change. There's different levels at which you can change things, right? So like, we don't want to quit smoking. We actually do want to smoke. We just know that we should quit, so we try to quit, right? And I struggled with that for a long time until I started thinking about, I don't want to be a smoker anymore. Like, I don't want that to be my life. I want to have something different. So I've read the book Atomic Habits multiple times now, and it's a really, really great book that I recommend. It's a great study on habits, how to create change, and how to break bad habits, how to make good ones. And it's really helped me, first of all, stay a non-smoker, take care of myself better, be a partner at home. And I've gotten a lot of what I'm probably going to talk about today from, reading this book a couple of times and putting it into use, because it really, really does work. And in the book, they describe that there's 3 levels of change. So what we want is the results, right? The outcomes changing. We want to have the 6-pack. We want to be 30 pounds or 20 pounds or whatever less than we are. But that's what everybody thinks of. But results are not necessarily something that you can change directly in a lasting way. There's the second level of change, which is, how do you get to those results? It's the systems that you do. So you're not going to get to the result of your goal of losing weight without having a system in place to do that, right? If you don't eat healthier, if you don't go to the gym regularly, if you don't do the things that a healthier person does who is losing weight, you're not going to, right? You're going to stay where you are. And I kind of think of the result. It's like a car engine. Like, the results are the exhaust. Like, that's what actually happens. It's the noise of your car moving. The systems is everything, like the engine that actually drives those results. So writing every day is what drives the result of writing a novel or being an author. But the one most important thing that you need to know is the way that we change as people is the lowest level, which is identity change. So it's how you see yourself. And that is what I teased at the beginning, the number one factor, the deciding factor into whether or not you will actually stick with a change that you want to make. It's whether you identify with it. Mm-hmm. So great example is, I've never thought of myself as a morning person, right? So a lot of us struggle with getting up early in the morning. We don't want to get up early. It's not fun. We don't see ourselves as a morning person. So if you just set your alarm earlier and hope and pray that when it goes off, you're going to get up out of bed and all of a sudden just be able to do things, it's not going to happen. So the result that you want is being awake early in the morning. The systems are going to bed earlier and setting your alarm earlier, but those things will fail unless you start to see yourself as a morning person. And at night, instead of saying, man, I really don't want to get up in the morning, I'm dreading this, you have to change that sort of thought pattern in your mind and conversation that you have with yourself to say, I want to become a morning person. That is my goal. My goal is not to wake up early. My goal is to become the kind of person who wants to wake up early. And then it's easy because you identify with it. How easy is it for you to do things that you identify with already, right? Like, if you are a musician, Cass, you play music all the time. You never have to struggle to get yourself to pick up your guitar and play. You say, I play guitar, I'm a musician, I sing, and then you just go and do it. The kind of people who do enjoy exercising, they just see themselves that way. I like to exercise, and they go. They don't struggle with it. There's obviously times where you do it more and less, but it's that sort of identity piece of it that most of us are missing from our resolutions.
Right. And there are times, even though I do enjoy exercising, if I'm in a particularly, depressive way, it does take a lot to motivate me to get out. And I don't always do it.
Yeah.
Because I just, it's not like I don't even want to get up early. I just don't want to get up. And I don't want to do anything. I don't want to play music. I don't want to play with Appa. I just don't want to do anything. And so with those of us who struggle with mental health, which I'm guessing is the majority of our listeners, there's an extra layer of difficulty on top of this.
Right.
And, from a very practical standpoint, there are a lot of good reasons to put certain things off until the new year, such as, if you're trying to eat healthier, Christmas and Thanksgiving, those are very difficult days to be eating healthy. Those are very temptation-driven days that even those of us who have made the healthier changes will struggle with. I mean, I don't even know the amount of calories I consumed on Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Oh
and I
my
mean,
lord.
I have thoughts about that too because it's like I
Mm,
personally took from Thanksgiving
mm,
to the end of the year off from really caring about that kind of stuff,
mhm.
because over time I've learned that like this is just who I am now. Like my lifestyle is, Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, I go to the gym after work. I generally try and only have one snack at night. You know what I mean? Because I'm a big, junk food eater when it comes to be
Mhm.
late at night for various reasons. But one of the things that I think about is that it's consistency and doing these things more often than not that really makes it, because
Right.
I started to talk about the identity change and trying to see yourself as that. But how do we do that, right? So, how does your brain know what your identity is? How does my brain know that I'm a non smoker now versus I was?
Mhm.
It's evidence. Your brain is really good at looking back and categorizing things and thinking about these patterns, right? So it saw for 15 years of my life, every day I smoked a pack of cigarettes. And your brain starts to say, you are a smoker. All of this time, we have all this evidence to say, hey, this is something that we do all day, every day. This must be part of my identity. And it sees us as a smoker. But each day that you spend not smoking and telling your brain, I am not a smoker anymore, is one day of evidence that you are going towards that. You're becoming a non smoker. So, in order to get to the result, you have to convince your brain with evidence, with little tiny votes towards that, that you are becoming that kind of person. And over time, you start to sort of shift your identity and the way that you see yourself to align more with that one that you want to be. And I know it sounds silly, but I have these conversations with myself in my brain all the time. 5 o'clock rolls around, work's about to be over. I don't necessarily feel like going to the gym. I say to myself, well, I know you don't feel like going to the gym, but we're working on becoming the kind of person who has their mental and physical health as their number one priority. What would that person do? They would probably go to the gym. So either today I can vote for being who I was, or I can make a vote towards being the person that I'm trying to become and having this change and all of these things that come along with it.
Mhm.
And I don't always say I'm going to vote the right way. Sometimes I say, you know what? I've gone 3 times this week.
Mhm.
I'm skipping today. But as long as you are focused on trying to vote that way more often than not and trying to make those choices more often than you don't, eventually it does add up. And those little wins become that new sort of identity. And your brain starts to see you as that. And it only took a short period of time, weeks to months of me doing that before I start to feel better and better and better. And now, the person I was at the very beginning of 2023 would not believe the fact that I feel odd on weeks that I don't go to the gym as much.
Mhm.
I don't feel as good. I notice the physical differences, and even more than that, the mental differences. I've learned that I like having that little mental break to where I literally have an hour that I can't think about anything other than how much I fucking hate what I'm currently doing at the gym and don't want to be doing it anymore, because then I'm not thinking about other bullshit. I've come to appreciate that as a hidden benefit of exercising that I never knew before. You know what I mean? And now it's something that I identify with so much that I feel off when I don't go. And towards the end of the year, I say, you know what? I've done pretty fucking consistently over the past 11 months what I've wanted to do. And I know that I can go the month of December without really caring about it because it doesn't wipe out the year of progress. I am a person who is healthier and who takes care of himself now. Just because I don't exercise for the month of December doesn't mean I'm not that person anymore. And it gives you the ability to take those little hiatuses and breaks without completely being derailed because you know that that's who you are and that's who you're coming back to.
And that takes time.
It
You
does.
can't start doing this and then be like, I'm going to take the next month off. You have to get into that pattern
That's right.
of reconfiguring
Yeah.
your identity before that. So if you are looking at January 1st as a start date for something for, reasons like I said, where, the holiday season, it's really tough to eat well. When the holiday season ends, I'm going to get serious about this. You
Yeah.
need to start making those mental adjustments, start doing your research to find out how you're going to start doing this in November and December. So that way, when January rolls around, you are already in the process of changing that.
Right.
And
Right.
at the same time, it's a delicate balance of listening to your own body and mind. And, so many of us with ADHD have that all or nothing thinking,
Yes.
where it's like, well, if I don't do this, it means I fucked up, so I might as well give up.
Yes. Yes.
No, if you are sick, if you have hurt yourself, you know, when I was delivering for Amazon, when I first got started, I had massive plantar fasciitis
Oh
because I
God.
wasn't used to walking 14
Yeah.
miles a day. Who is?
Nobody.
And so my feet were messed up. And I wanted, because of all my fun clothes, I wanted to keep wearing heels while I was trying to recover from that.
Yeah.
And I kept trying to go running at the gym. And I had to switch to, when I go to the gym, I need to ride the stationary bike so that way there's no impact on my feet.
Yeah.
I know I'll get used to this and recover. I need to buy insoles and adapt. When I'm sick, I have had to learn the hard way. I need to ease up and wait for my body to recover, or I'm going to set myself back. And then my goals are going to be even further away. You need to be okay with taking these little breaks and listening to yourself and giving yourself enough compassion that you can pick up and not just throw in the towel because, well, I missed a week. So obviously I
Right.
can't do this.
Right. And it's like having that baseline of like, this is my identity, this is who I am. It gives you that sort of, guiding light, so to speak, in a way to come back to when you are having those moments, and realizing that it's about just the consistent progress, the actions that you're doing rather than the results is another really big key to that, because the results are closed ended a lot of times, right? I want to lose 20 pounds. Great. You lose 20 pounds, then what happens? You
Hmm.
eat, right? So if you're if your goal is to lose 20 pounds, it's closed ended. Once you do that, you have no reason to continue with that.
Right.
So, but if your goal is, I want to become a healthier person, I want to take care of myself better, I want to make sure my physical and mental health is my number one priority, that is open ended. And it's something that you can do indefinitely. And I like to think of like milestones rather than goals. You know what I mean? Like one of my milestones, this is going to sound silly. I'm going to sound, whatever, is to do 10 push-ups. I have never in my life had the upper body strength to do push-ups like that. And so what happened when I started to do push-ups? I couldn't just go to 10, right? I started, let's do 5. And 5 was too much. And so I did 3, and like I really was not in good shape. But now I can do 10, right? And maybe
Yep.
one day I'll do 15 or 20. But my goal was not necessarily to stop at that. That was a milestone along the way of becoming the person who's in better shape and a person who's healthier. So you can have these little incremental specific things as milestones along the way. But the real goal that you need to have is an identity-based, open-ended goal. So instead of saying, all right, New Year's resolution, I'm going to exercise more. Okay, first of all, what the fuck does that even mean, right? You need a plan and you need an open-ended goal. An open-ended goal of, I want to become the kind of person who cares enough about their health that they exercise 3 days a week. All right, something like that is specific, but also open-ended. 3
Hmm.
days a week is a good starting point, but it doesn't specify the time, doesn't specify what you're doing. You got to start somewhere, right? You can't just immediately jump to wanting to be all the way completed. You have to establish before you can optimize. So I literally would go into the gym. I would walk for like 10, 15 minutes on the treadmill. I would do a couple random machines that I felt like doing, not really for any reason. And then I would, ride the bike for like 5 or 10 minutes at the end. And that was it. And just doing that shitty workout that honestly was probably not helping me very much was secondary to the fact that I was just trying to get there
Because it
consistently.
was helping you in a
It
way.
was helping me, right? So like it wasn't physically helping the muscles. So it's not necessarily giving me 6-pack abs to walk on the treadmill for 20 minutes. But what it's doing is it's helping me become the kind of person who eventually gets there, right?
Hmm.
And my goal is not to be muscular or not to lose a ton of weight. My actual goal is, in making my health my number one priority, is to be able to have the strength and stamina to do the things I want to do without feeling like crap all the time. We went to London on our honeymoon. We walked over 20,000 steps a day for a lot of days, and I would not have been able to walk even half that had we not been going consistently and exercising. And now I think about it in, well, I just want to be able to go on my next vacation and not fall and pass out at the end of the day, right? So I don't care that I haven't lost as much weight as some people. I don't care that I'm still considered overweight, because that's not my goal. My goal is
Mhm.
not to lose X amount of pounds. My goal is to be healthier and feel better. And that's something that is a continuous thing that will never end. I always am going to want to feel better, not a certain number of poundages, because then once you hit that, what do, right? I have this range. I like to be between 250 and 260, but I don't really care that that's too much for someone my size. Am fine with my body at that weight. I am more concerned about making sure that my muscles and stamina are there to where I feel comfortable at that 250 to 260 weight. Because to be honest, I don't really give a shit about losing any more weight. That's not what I'm in this for. I'm not in this to lose weight. I'm in this to make the most of my life. So that motivation that you're thinking of that you mentioned earlier needs to be
Mhm.
more than I just don't want to be as fat as I am,
Yeah.
and I know that's harsh language, but the reality is a lot of people just like, I feel like I'm fat and I need to lose weight, so I'm going to lose weight. That's not the right reason. And I have felt that. Trust me, I have been very close to 350 at times in my life, and I felt like shit physically, and I just didn't want to feel crappy anymore. It wasn't from outside people. I literally, I know this is not, what a lot of people think, but I really didn't ever give a shit about my weight. I didn't care that I looked heavier or was fatter than other people because it wasn't about that for me. I'm comfortable with myself. I just didn't want to physically feel like crap anymore. I wanted to be able to like kneel down and pick something up and stand up without being like, oh God, my knees, my back, like that was the goal for me. I want to walk around 20,000 steps in Disney World and not feel like I'm going to die. So that's what I was getting at with the
Yeah.
goal.
And these goals, there's a fine line to walk because you need to be specific enough that you have something to shoot for, but not so specific that it's a one and done. Okay, well, I've accomplished this, so now what?
Right.
And I know we've been talking about like weight loss and fitness a lot just because, 3 out of the top 5 have to do with that.
That's true.
But you need to know yourself and put in the work of understanding your psyche, understanding your physical makeup before you can head into a goal like that. Because if I were to say I want to lose 100 pounds when I was 200 pounds,
Right.
that's actually highly unhealthy. If I said I wanted to drop 60 pounds when I was, 200 pounds, I have not in the long term accomplished that goal. But if I said I want to be able to do pull ups and run tough mutters and do all of these other things, I have met that goal. If I wanted to say, I can do the Amazon job or anything like that, I've met that goal. You need to get, we get so hung up on numbers, and the media is a big surprise, a
Well,
big
yeah.
toxic, you know, whirlpool
Yes.
for all resolutions, not just weight loss, but especially weight loss and especially for women. They
Right.
get so hung up on these numbers. You know, BMI is bullshit.
Yeah.
They do not take muscle into an account, and BMI was based off of men and not women.
Right. Right.
Another big shock. And
Of course.
so if you look at that, somebody like Chris Hemsworth is considered obese.
Yeah. It's
Obviously,
ridiculous.
he's not. He is
Yeah.
an Adonis of a man. But like if you go by BMI and you go by these rigid scientific things, it's a problem. And my doctor, very old school in a lot of that thinking, has told me several times, you need to lose weight. And I will ask, how is my blood pressure? How is this? How is this? And she'll still tell me this. And she's like, oh, well, all that's very healthy. Okay. My waist is 27 inches. I'm not particularly concerned about my heart and my health. So if you're
Yeah.
saying I need to lose weight based solely on the fact that I'm 5'5" and 165 pounds, you need to update your thinking and you
Yeah.
need to know yourself well enough to be able to advocate for yourself and not be put off by that.
Yeah.
Another
Exactly.
another goal that we can jump to, like the quit smoking, or God knows we're in the music scene. We know a lot of people with drinking problems,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And somebody with a bad drinking problem can't say, I want to drink less come the new year.
Yeah.
You can't just say that, because then your goal isn't to stop drinking, it is to drink less. And if you have an actual alcohol addiction, you're not going to be able to just have a few glasses of wine
Yeah.
per week. That's
Yeah.
just not going to be the way your brain works. And you need to acknowledge if you're at that point of an addiction where it's dangerous, You can't be like, I'm going to be the type of person who smokes a few cigarettes on the weekend, or I'm going to be the type of person that only
Oh
drinks
yeah.
socially, because your brain is at a point where that's just not
Yeah.
possible.
And with going back to the smoking example, I smoked for a long time, maybe 15 years, and I always used to joke that I wanted to want to quit. You know what I mean? I didn't actually want to quit smoking. I kind of liked smoking for a long time, and I didn't really want to quit. I just knew that I should, and it was expensive and not good for me, and I wished that I wanted to quit. And there were times where I did quit, but my brain just kept going back to, well, I do really want to smoke. I liked smoking for a long time. And it wasn't until I kind of got sick of it that I was able to stop. So I did switch from smoking to using the vape for a while. And that helped kick the smoking, but then you just do the vape, right? And eventually I got to the point where I was just so tired of dealing with it because it was a hassle to get the stuff and put it all together and like always be charging the damn thing. And like I weaned myself off the nicotine part of it, so I wasn't physically addicted to it anymore. It was just the activity. So at a certain point, I was like, why am I doing this anymore? There's no real reason or need. I'm not really a smoker anymore. I haven't had nicotine in a long time. So now I need to stop this habit. And I just got to a point where I didn't even really feel like it anymore. And over time, I kind of built up that evidence with myself to like, hey, you're working on becoming a non-smoker now. And there were a few times where I had cigarettes afterwards. Like, I'm not perfect. I've smoked a couple of cigarettes since I've quit. But the very last time I had one, it was just a puff. I was with some friends who were smoking, and I took a puff of one of their cigarettes, and I looked at it, and I was like, I don't even fucking like this anymore. I was like, I'm not a smoker anymore. I don't even like to smoke a cigarette. What would I be doing if I went and got cigarettes again? It would be like purposefully doing something I don't like. For what reason? You know what I mean? Like, you have no reason to go and pick up and do something that you don't like or don't want to do. So changing your identity to the identity of somebody who doesn't do that thing, that's the goal you should have. It shouldn't be just to stop smoking. And then I did realize all the other benefits. Like, my health is better. I am not spending a car payment's worth of money every month on cigarettes anymore. I feel silly saying this, but cigarettes were almost $10 a pack when I quit, and now they're like $15 a pack. I'm just like, who the fuck can? Like, I smoked a pack a day. That's a lot of money to be spending, and I
So
didn't
much money.
even realize it. You know, like, obviously I knew, but like I didn't really realize the full impact of it until later when I quit. And nowadays, I just don't think of myself as a smoker anymore. It's weird because I spent so many years thinking that way. I was, silly, and I started when I was a teenager. Everybody around me that I knew, like friends-wise, smoked. My parents smoked, and it just seemed like something that I wanted to do, right? Because I was a stupid, rebellious teenager, and that's what I wanted to do, is to smoke. But nowadays, I don't long for that anymore. I don't ever think back like, oh man, I remember when I used to smoke. Those were the days. Now it's like, oh, what the fuck was I doing with my life?
My God, I smelled bad.
Oh my God, I know. And it's like I took two puffs off a cigarette, and I was like, oh, yeah. When I used to smoke a pack a day, I can't do two puffs now. And I mean, that's a good thing. And this is what I'm getting at, is that like, this is where you want to get at, to actually make a resolution. You don't want to just be fighting yourself every single day to do something that you don't feel like doing, because it's not going to happen. You want to make the thing that you want to do the thing you feel like doing. How do you do that? You need to make a decision to change your identity and use an identity-based goal of, this is how I want to be. And from there, you need to give your brain little pieces of evidence, one vote at a time, one day at a time, that you're working towards becoming that kind of a person. And I don't obviously explain it quite as well as Atomic Habits, the book, does, the book that's changed my life, but I definitely think that that's the gist of it. And I do really encourage everybody to go and check that book out. This is not sponsored in any way. I just genuinely really
I
love
was
this
just
book,
thinking of that.
Although
Sponsored by Atomic Habits.
if James Clear wants to sponsor us or come on our podcast, that would be fucking phenomenal. But guy is super busy now. But yeah, it's just that, this is the science to it. This is the evidence-based track to doing something for yourself to change your identity to meet those goals. And I don't mean that you are, by change your identity, your values change. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about like, oh, I it was this type of person, meaning like I'm a compassionate, empathetic person, and I just want to take care of other people, or like I am so wrapped up in my sports or my religion or whatever it might be. Like, that's not the identity that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the identity of your habits and the things that you do every single day, because that's literally what we are, right? Is the things that we do every day. You don't need to change your faith, for example, to become the kind of person who's healthier. Those things are congruent. So
Right.
people kind of get a little tipped off when I say change your identity. I don't mean change your fundamental values. I mean change the things that you do every single day.
Right. And obviously we are in no way trying to discourage you from making changes and setting goals, and even looking at January as a goal as to when to start working toward these things. Like I said, there are a lot of reasons to work for that. Sometimes it's just the placebo effect of this feels like a clean slate, and it's putting my mind in the starting a new thing, but you still need to have the proper motivation.
Yeah.
Which leads us to the next point, which is the list of most commonly abandoned New Year's resolutions.
Ah, yes.
As you can see, or as you can assume, there will be a, some overlap.
Yeah.
And let me see. Obviously, I am setting, there's the most common. How many come true? Recent research has shown that just 9% of Americans actually keep their resolutions through the year.
9.
It says a planner or journal is a common method of accountability for 35% of those making New Year's resolutions, unless you're like me and your resolution was to start keeping a journal, in which case, good luck with that. But I'm trying to
So
find.
I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of overlap in them.
There's
Because
a lot of overlap.
yeah. So
There's the most popular.
I'm wondering what the ones that aren't part of the original list were.
Okay, here we go. There is one in the top 5 failed.
That was not part of the original list.
That was not part of the original list.
Okay.
The
So
other all 5 of these, I will say, we have talked about in this
okay.
podcast.
Okay. So I've
So
got to guess that exercising more is probably one of them.
yes, and this
And
is based off of the year of 2022.
okay.
So this is a different study from Statista Global Consumer Survey,
Ooh.
if we want to get specific. If you want to guess the top 5, I'm pretty sure you're going to get them. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure at least you will get the bottom 4. I will tell you what the percentage of people who failed that resolution
Okay.
are.
So I'm guessing exercise more is on there, and I'm guessing it's a high number, like 90% of people.
Not as high as you're thinking. It's weird because this one actually makes the umbrella statement of these types of goals even broader.
Oh yeah.
Out of 14,458 respondents in 2022, and keep in mind, not everybody's going to be honest on these things.
Right.
The one that most aligns with what you guessed is improving my fitness. That is number 3. And it's 59% of people from that survey in 2022 reported that they failed.
So that means that 60% almost of people admitted to it. So I wonder how many people didn't.
And everybody has different, definitions of I've improved my fitness.
Yeah, like
Keep
what
in
that
mind.
actually means. Yeah.
Okay.
All
Take
right.
another one.
So another one. Well, I'm going to go ahead and guess and put quitting smoking on there. That's got to be another one.
That is number 2.
Number 2, probably say 80% of people.
I don't know why they ordered it like this, to be quite frank with you. Because actually improving my fitness would be number 2 if they ordered this the correct way. Giving up smoking, 55% said they failed.
55%. All right.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. I often used to say quitting smoking was easy. I've done it 100 times. And I really have done it and failed 100 times. But
Yep.
it's just that one time when I decided not to quit smoking, but to not be a smoker anymore, that I was able to stick with it.
All right, take another guess.
All right. Exercise more, quit smoking. I'm guessing save money probably was on there as
Nope.
well. No. Okay, so people managed to save money.
Well, according to this one.
So eat healthier, I think was another one, but I know they were
Yep.
kind of all wrapped up together. But
You're right,
eat
though.
healthier.
Improving my diet is number 5.
Okay. So we've got eat healthier. We've got quit smoking was not on. Quit smoking was on there.
Mm-hmm.
We've got exercise more. I'm guessing spend time with friends and family because that was
Nope.
another one. Spend more time with people.
That was one of the top 5 made.
Oh, that makes sense.
Again, different surveys,
Yeah.
different years. And so improving my diet
Yeah.
was the number 5, and that's 51% reported that they failed. Again, that's a broad definition.
Right.
What does
Right.
improving your diet mean? Does it mean cutting out soda? Does it mean,
Yeah.
whatever it means? And
All
so
right.
I'll give you this number 4 because we are under the same umbrella, losing weight in
Yeah.
general. And that is tied with giving up smoking at 55% of people reported they failed.
Yeah. All right. So now we've got to think of the one that wasn't on the original list.
Yep. And that is the number 1.
The number 1.
And it is something that was mentioned during this podcast, just not in that original list.
So we talked about the health things. We talked about the smoking. We talked about
This is health adjacent.
health adjacent. Lose weight. This is tough. Go to the doctor more. Go to therapy.
Nope.
No. The only other thing I could think of is like, well, you said it's health adjacent. I was thinking other things like getting more organized. Like that's a common one, or like
Nope.
cleaning the house better, that kind of thing. But so it's not exercising, eating better, or just like losing weight in general. I don't know what else it could be.
Let me know when you want me to just give it out.
Go ahead. I give up.
It's staying sober.
I see. Yeah, that's
And
health
it's
adjacent.
quitting entirely, like I
Yeah.
said. It's quitting entirely and not, what I was talking about before. And because you have to start with reducing. You have to reduce, you have to wean yourself off of it, or you're going to have withdrawals and you're just going to give up.
You have to
That
establish
is,
before you can optimize.
Yep. 67% of people reported that they failed.
And, again, that's a broad one of like, what does that really mean, depending on where you're at. Like if you're a 2 drinks a night kind of person, that's different than somebody who's like, very much an alcoholic, drinking all day, every day kind of thing. So it's hard to gauge, but I can definitely see that being something people struggle with, because that's another thing where it's a physical addiction too. And it's not just like a mental thing, but your body becomes physically addicted to it as well.
Exactly. And you have to have the proper motivation. My ex, I witnessed take shots out of an Advil bottle at 8:00 in the morning on a Wednesday. You can see why we're no longer together. When there were no clean shot glasses because he had gone through them all last night. And
fantastic.
Somebody like that can't say, I just want to quit drinking. Cool. Right. Somebody like me who, at one point was drinking a little too much, but was never at that point. It was so much easier for me.
Yeah.
But that person was never properly motivated to stop and never viewed it as a problem.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is like you are of the mindset that you drink sometimes. That person just needed to drink all the time because that's who they were. Every day, Wednesday morning, they're drinking shots. You know what I mean? Your brain, even if you don't have a fully formed conscious thought to say, I am the kind of person who drinks all the time, or I am an alcoholic, because you probably won't.
Right.
Your brain sees the evidence of, hey, every single day I do this. I want to do that again. This is who I am. This is what we do. And you don't even realize this sort of intrinsic motivation to say it's time to have a drink, because your brain just sees that as part of who you are, right?
Right.
And until you start to look at yourself as, firstly acknowledge I am the kind of person who drinks too much, then saying I want to be the kind of person who doesn't drink or who drinks a reasonable amount, then you have a path to getting there. You actually have defined some sort of path to go down, or some sort of constraints that give you a framework to work
and
within.
Goalposts move.
Yeah.
If that
like
person if that person was able to realize, whoa, hey, this is messed up, even after multiple people had told them that. Um, you know, at one point, this person had said, I didn't drink today. All I've had was beer.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Yeah. You know,
That's not exactly the same thing.
making the choice of, hey, I'm going to cut out hard liquor. And maybe that's where you start. I'm
Yeah.
going to only have beer and wine. And then you can start with, I'm only going to have beer and wine on weekends. Or, you know, if you work a 9 to 5, if you're like me and you don't have a normal weekend, you know, you adapt.
Yeah.
You have to start like that. You move the goalpost. And if your goal is to eventually to cut out alcohol and drugs entirely, you need to know where you're starting. Everybody has a different starting point, and you need to give yourself enough compassion, enough introspection to understand, hey, this person only has a 5K to reach this goal. I need to run a marathon. So this person's going to be able to sprint and they're going to be tired at the end, but it's going to be a lot faster. I need to learn how to pace myself.
Yeah. I think that's definitely a good way of describing it, and like something that I don't think a lot of people realize is that we focus on the result but not that process part of it, and we just want to get from point A to point B without all of the little steps in between it.
Yep.
So I guess the last thing that I wanted to wrap up with was, you know, we talked about how to, you know, set these things the right way so that way you can actually stick with the resolution. And also we talked about finding the path and having that open-ended goal of aligning your identity more with what you want to do. And I just want to kind of put out there that this can apply to anything in life, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be fitness or the kind of things that would be traditionally New Year's resolutions, like quitting smoking, even though we've talked about that a lot. It can be starting something new. It could be sticking with something that you're already doing. You know, there's a point, no matter how much you like what you're doing, if this year you wanted to start writing more, or if you wanted to start making content online, or, you know, getting better at a video game, like, I don't care what it is. The thing is that you have to align yourself with the desired sort of archetype of the person who is successful at that. And really what I'm trying to say here is that this is a very fancy version of saying you fake it till you make it, right? So it's a very fancy way of saying, listen, your brain does not know that this is who you are, because right now it's not, right? Your brain sees the current person of all of your evidence. It sees that you're the kind of person who does not write every single day. But you need to teach your brain that that's who you are. And the way you do that is by having a set goal of becoming a certain kind of person who accomplishes the results that you're looking for. So just to lay it out there real simply at the end, I'm going to take the easy example of I want to write more, or I want to write a book, let's say. Instead of saying I want to write a book, I want to write more. I want to become the kind of person who writes more. What does that kind of person do? They would probably write a little bit every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And so how can you start to give your brain evidence that you are becoming that kind of person is by writing.
Yep.
You've got to set a specific time and schedule aside to do that. You've got to essentially do these sorts of things that prioritize becoming that way. And
Yep.
when you keep it open like that and you decide that that's your priority and that's what you want to work on, you're no longer forcing yourself to do a task that you don't want to do. What you're doing is you are creating a system to give yourself a framework to do the sort of tasks that prove to your brain that you can become and will become the type of person who reaches your results. And that's really the most that I can boil it down to without getting into, you know, the details of the systems part of it and that kind of thing. I highly encourage you to read the book, the Atomic Habits book. But this is what people get wrong about resolutions, is they just say, I'm going to wake up early every single morning from now until next December. And they are absolutely not going to do it. If you say, I am becoming a morning person, that's my goal, then you see yourself on this journey and you transform slowly to that, rather than just forcing yourself to do something you don't want to do. I am no longer a smoker, and I will not ever be. Not because I'm any better, but because I stopped just trying to not smoke cigarettes, and I started trying to become the kind of person who doesn't care. And I now don't like smoking cigarettes, when for all of these years, the biggest reason I couldn't quit is because I really liked it. I don't like it anymore. And it only took a short, year to 2 years of not smoking at all and being a non-smoker to realize that. So I just want you to understand that your capabilities for this are way greater than you probably realize, as long as you go about it the right way.
Perfect.
That's pretty much what I had to share. Did you have any closing thoughts, Cass?
Not really. I think we've discussed quite a bit here.
Yeah.
Hopefully this can help you guys, whether it's, modifying any goals that you've already set out to make. This is going to be released 3 days before Quitter's Day.
Yeah.
Hopefully this can teach you to have a little bit more compassion with yourself, to look into yourself, understand your starting point, and to know that the basis of every change is understanding yourself.
Yeah. I totally agree. And don't wait until next New Year if you fail,
No.
right? Just do it. Start Tuesday. You know what I mean? Like there's no time like now. The best time to start is yesterday, as the old saying goes, and the second best time to start is right this very minute. And that's really what we wanted to get along. Couple of things that I just wanted to share as little teasers before we close out the episode. We're not going to advertise to you. Just please listen. Cass and I have been talking about and starting to work on something that we're loosely calling our 5 rules for living a more fulfilling life. We're going to be putting that out in an ebook that is free. Again, I'm not selling you anything. We just want you to know that that is coming, and we're going to have an episode within the next month or two when we start getting into our next session that we want to talk about that. And so we've talked a lot about how we think you should focus on what is a passion for you and focus on creating the life you love. But now we want to give a little bit more concrete information about how to do that and what steps are the most important to take. The other thing that I wanted to point out is that we do have lots of guests coming up soon, and we want to share stories of people who are going out to live a life that's focused on and driven by their passions. And so if you have a story, whether yourself or someone else that you'd like to share, you want to be considered as a guest on the show, please do reach out to us. There's a contact form on fucktheplan.com, or you can send an email to stories@fucktheplan.com. And we will listen, we will reach out, and we'll go from there if you are looking to share a story. So please reach out and let us know. That's all I wanted to share with you guys today. I've been Aaron.
I'm Cass.
And this has been Fuck the Plan. Have a good one.